CBS 4's Jim DeFede joins us now. So, Jim, let's remind everyone of what the president said yesterday on the South Lawn of the White House.
China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine. So I would say that President Zelensky, if it were me, I would recommend that they start an investigation into the Bidens.
So even after that public pronouncement, Republicans largely stayed silent. Senator Marco Rubio today was pressed on an answer. He's normally a vocal critic of China. And what did he have to say today about it?
Yeah, and I really want to underscore that point. There is probably nobody in the United States Senate who is a bigger critic of China, warning about human rights abuses, the lack of religious freedom, the economic threat that they pose. You know, he has been a staunch critic of China. So when this happened, and, you know, the president basically was inviting China to investigate his political rival, we wanted to find out what Marco Rubio had to say about it. And let's play that sound now.
Do you think it's okay for President Trump to ask China to launch an investigation of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I don't know if that's a real request or him just needling the press, knowing that you guys were going to get outraged by it. He's pretty good at getting everybody fired up, and he's been doing that for a while, and the media responded right on task.
But you're one of the loudest critics of China and its human rights abuses. I mean, is it okay for him to ask to say that?
I don't think it's a real request. I think he did it to gig you guys. I think he did it to provoke you to ask me and others and get outraged by it. Like I said, I mean, he plays it like a violin and everybody falls right into it. But that's not a real request.
It's not a real request. He was needling the press. What does that response tell you about how this is lining up politically?
Well, look, I do think that for Republicans, this is very hard. Marco Rubio is trying to basically say there's nothing to see here. But anyone who's been watching the developments over the last 24, 48, 72 hours knows this issue isn't going away. And the interference by foreign governments into our elections is a serious matter. Now, while most Republicans have steered clear of it, you are seeing some Republicans starting to get pressed on the issue more and more. We saw Joni Ernst in Iowa. We saw senators in other parts of the state. One senator, though, has stood out. Republican Senator Mitt Romney issued a tweet almost at the same time that Marco Rubio was making that statement. And in that tweet, he says, by all appearances, the president's brazen and unprecedented appeal to China and to Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden is wrong and appalling. And he also goes on to talk about how there is no way that you can see what the president did and not say that it was politically motivated. So you're seeing two very different responses. Now, Mitt Romney has always been sort of a critic of the president. Will other Republicans follow? We're waiting to see.
So let's talk about the attacks on Joe Biden, because in some cases, candidates welcome these types of attacks from the incumbent because it maybe confirms they're a threat, maybe confirms they're the front runner. But in this case, could it actually hurt Joe Biden? Well,
I think what you're seeing Donald Trump is being very effective at is he is his own best spokesman. So he has just been swarming the media. He is out there pressing the case, repeating things that have been largely debunked or untrue, and not being afraid to just repeat them over and over and over again. And there are those in conservative media who will repeat them time and time again. But while Democrats have so far stayed pretty well aligned with Joe Biden in terms of not criticizing him, I had a chance today to speak to Congresswoman Frederica Wilson for my show on this coming Sunday, and I asked her about whether or not these attacks by the president were damaging Joe Biden. And let's play what she had to say. With the damage that President Trump is trying to inflict on him, can Joe Biden win the presidency if he's the Democratic nominee?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's not only going to be hard for the electorate, it's going to be hard on him. I don't know if Joe Biden has the stamina, the strength to take on President Trump, because President Trump is crazy. He's not a well person, and he's a terrible man, and he's beating up on this man, and there's only so much you can take. And so I worry about him.
That message, I worry about Joe Biden. Does Joe Biden have the stamina? Does he have the strength to go up against Donald Trump? That is the first time I've heard a Democratic member of Congress say something so blatantly. There are those who will sort of suggest that they have concerns about whether or not Joe Biden standing on a stage, for instance, and debating Donald Trump will be effective. But that's the first time I've ever heard it actually articulated.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much.
Sure.
And you can hear more of the Congresswoman's conversation with Jim, including what she had to say about the Trump impeachment inquiry. That's Sunday morning at 8:30 on Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.